Hey YouTube, welcome back to another episode of Intuition. In today's video, we're going to be going over some more miscellaneous Naplex questions. Alright, stay tuned. So today's video is going to cover some more fundamental questions for those of you still studying for your exam. So today we're going to answer 3 questions. Let's dive into it. Question number 1. So question number 1 states, a weekly basic drug is formulated as a hydrochloride salt for oral intake. A patient who takes this drug has recently changed her diet such that her intestinal pH has decreased. How would you expect this to impact the bioavailability of the drug in this patient? So clearly this is an acid-based question, right? And when it comes to acid-based questions, what do we typically rely on? We rely on the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, right? So that's one method that you could use to solve this question correctly. But a simpler way to get this answer correct is simply to use the Le Chatelier's principle that we all learned in chemistry. If you've forgotten that principle, it's a very simple principle to remember. In fact, you can even say it's common sense. It says that whenever you have a reaction in equilibrium, for any change in the system is going to try to go back to its equilibrium. That means that if you have reactants and products in equilibrium with each other, if you add more reactants, what's going to happen to the equilibrium? It's going to shift towards products to go back to what it was before. And likewise, if you add more products, the reaction is going to shift towards reactants. And if you add more reactants, the equilibrium is going to shift towards products. Okay? So that's all we need to remember. And since we're dealing with a weekly basic drug, we just need to write down what the equilibrium reaction will look like for a weak base. And what would that be? So what does a weak base do? A weak base simply takes a proton to form a conjugate acid, BH+. That's all it is, right? Very simple. So all you have to do is just look at this chemical reaction here and think about in which direction this reaction would move if we have a decrease in pH, which is what we have here for this patient, right? Due to her diet, her intestinal pH has decreased. To have a decrease in pH simply means to add more protons, to add more H+. So if you add more protons to this chemical reaction, in which direction is it going to be shifted? Well, the protons are on the left side of this reaction. They are on the reactant side. It's going to shift away from the reactants and shift towards the product. And we'll have more conjugate acid. We'll have more conjugate acid relative to the basic drug. So that's the first part of solving this problem. The second part is you have to ask yourself, now that we have more charged conjugate acid, will this have a positive effect on bioavailability? Will this increase bioavailability or will this decrease bioavailability? A drug has an easier time getting across the intestine if the drug is neutrally charged and if the drug is lipophilic. So a charged species is going to have a very difficult time getting across the intestine because remember, the intestine is lined with cells and cell membranes are lipophilic. The membrane of cells is made up of phospholipids, which is a lipid and therefore lipophilic. And which one will be more lipophilic, B or BH+? Well, clearly B. And in this case, we have decreased the amount of B and increased the amount of BH+, which means that we're going to have less drug cross the cell membranes. And therefore, bioavailability should decrease in this patient, not increase, okay? And that should be the correct answer. So correct answer would be B, bioavailability will decrease because we have increased the amount of conjugate acid in the intestine, okay? All right, so hopefully that makes sense for you guys. If you have any questions about it, leave it in the comment section. With that said, let's go on to question number 2. Question number 2 states, a pharmacoeconomic study will be conducted to determine the impact of a vaccination education program on public health. The researchers will compare the monetary cost of the education program with the reduction in healthcare costs, also in dollars. What type of study is this? So for this question, the detail that you have to recognize is that the input of the study is the cost of the program, and that cost is given in units of dollars. Also, the output of the study is how this program lowers healthcare costs, and that cost is also given in dollars. So that's the key to this question. Input is given in dollars, and output is also given in dollars. So we need to look at the answer choices to see which one gives us an input in dollars and an output in dollars. So let's go ahead and look at the answer choices. A says cost effectiveness analysis. Cost effectiveness analysis gives us an input in dollars. The cost will be in dollars, and the effectiveness is given in what unit? The effectiveness of a drug is not given in dollars, right? It's given in a natural unit. Like for example, how much is the blood pressure lowered. So a cost effectiveness study will not be the correct answer. Let's look at B. B says this will be a cost minimization analysis. Okay, that will also be incorrect because even though the input is in cost, when we talk about a minimization analysis, we're basically comparing different regimens of drugs that have the same effect. So their output is already the same, and we're just looking to see which one has the lower cost. For C, C says this is a cost consequence analysis. Okay, once again, that will be incorrect because a cost consequence analysis is similar to a cost effectiveness analysis, except we're looking at the negative impact of the drug. So consequence would also not be given in units of dollars, it would be given in units of natural units again. Okay, so we're left with the only remaining answer, and that would be answer choice D, cost benefit. And that would be correct because cost benefit analysis is when you're looking at the cost of something and comparing it to its benefit. And the benefit is also given in units of dollars. So answer will be answer choice D, cost benefit analysis. All right. Okay, let's go on to question number 3. Question number 3 states, which of the following are included in Hill's criteria for assessing causal relationships between variables? Select all that apply. Okay, so this might sound like a tough question because you might not be familiar with Hill's criteria. But even if you're not familiar with Hill's criteria, you can kind of guess the answers to this question based off the fact that you're trying to analyze causal relationship. And of course, many of us are familiar with the fact that correlation does not equal causation. So just because two things are correlated doesn't mean that there's a causal relationship between those two variables. But here is something that is not as intuitive. It is actually impossible to prove anything. You can't prove anything, but instead what you can do is provide evidence that something is true. Now, what the Hill's criteria does is it helps us to analyze evidence and give credence to evidence. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the answer choices. Answer choice A says temporality. For temporality, it means that there has to be a temporal relationship between the cause and the effect, which is true, right? Because if you're going to say that A causes B, I need to make sure that I see that A came before B. So you need to make sure that the principle of temporality is satisfied. And that will definitely be a correct answer choice. Okay. B says strength of association. So strength of association, that also makes sense, right? Because think about it. If you're going to say that A causes B, and if I check and look at the evidence and I see that you have a lot of patients who have A, but only 1 out of 10 of them also have B. But I'm saying that A causes B, but the strength of association is weak. Maybe A didn't cause B for all these other patients, but for this patient, A caused B. Okay, then that's possible. But if that strength of association is very low, it's going to be less likely that A actually caused B. So the strength of association is something that's definitely impactful. So that would definitely be a correct answer choice. Okay. C says flexibility. I'm not sure how A and B being flexible is going to give credence to a causal relationship. Flexibility almost sounds like random, and if A and B occurs randomly, then it's going to be less likely that there's a causal relationship. So it seems like flexibility will not be a correct answer choice, and I would definitely not pick that as a correct answer. Okay? And the last one is plausibility. And this is a very good answer choice. This would also be correct. Why? Because if you're going to say that A caused B, then that relationship has to make sense, which means that the interaction between A and B has to be plausible. Okay? So plausibility is also a relevant factor when it comes to assessing evidence for causal relationship. All right? So those would be the correct answers. Temporality, strength of association, and plausibility. Okay? Those would be correct. All right? So hopefully that makes sense for you guys. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a like. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. We're definitely happy to have you on Intuition. If you guys continue to share the channel, if we continue to grow, we'll be able to put out videos more often and create more content for you guys. So definitely go ahead and support the channel and look out for more videos in the future. All right? Bye-bye.